Hello! Ready to talk about some Scottish country dance music? Or listen about it or whatever, participate with it? My name is Ron Wallace. I'm representing TAC for this music forum on Scottish country dance music. And on violin, fiddle, we have Lisa Doyle, and on piano, Gary Thomas. Great to have them here. They're both musicians here in the Santa Rosa class, Sonoma County, part of the San Francisco branch. Right. So in 2001, I developed this to use for candidate classes, and it's just to make people or help people understand the differences of the different types of jigs, the different types of strathspeys, and the different types of reels, and how they can really help you as a teacher, and to understand how you can communicate with a musician better. So they're two very separate things. One's working with the musician, and some important information is required for that. And then just for picking your own music, for going through recordings, where can I find a tune that does this? Or, oh, I never thought that this might help that. So with that in mind, I'm going to share the screen. And this is all from the document that I suggested you download from our website. If you haven't, it's still available, A Scot in Time with a hyphen between each word, scotintime.org. And under resources, there's Music of Scottish Dance, Country Dance. It is a free document. Help yourselves. So, music. Let me just back up a bit here. At summer school, TAC summer school, I presented this, and someone commented that I jumped in the deep end, and I expected people had some modicum of understanding of music. My fault. If you notice on the left-hand side of your screen, it says the language of music. You see a whole bunch of lines going across the page. That's simply the staff. And it shows an upper register with a wonderful squiggly G at the beginning, which is standing for the treble clef or G clef, and the bottom what looks like a backward C for the bass clef. So those are the lower pitches, and they work their way up to the higher pitches, as in a stereo. The treble control, the bass control. The treble is for most melody instruments, not all, but most. So, for example, fiddle will be in that range. The right hand of the accordion or piano, typically in that range. Instruments like the left hand of the piano, cello, bass, would be using the lower end. So there's just a basic high and low of it all. And that the, whoops, that went faster than I was expecting, sorry. And the little black dots on there are the notes that are indicating to the musician which one they're playing. They're beamed together just to ease reading. And in this case, that beam indicates that they're all a certain length. But since they're all equal to each other, it does not indicate speed or tempo. Just what the pitch is, and they are all equal. They have letter names just so that we can refer to them. And we start on A up to G and then start all over again on A. And this is based on Western music, and this particular forum isn't going into the history of how that all works. We know that we have those notes, and we have semitones in between, most of them, which allows for sharps and flats, or going a bit above, higher, or a bit lower than a note. And actually, since Lisa is right here with her fiddle, would you just play an A? And as she raises it a half step to an A sharp, back to A, or down a half step to A flat. So you can hear they're significantly different, and it's important to know the difference. There are symbols that show whether it is sharp or flat. That's something that the musicians worry about, and we dance teachers don't have to think too much about. The next short staff shows a variety of different length of notes. There are 3 notes connected at the beginning, all eighth notes, then a half note, quarter note, dotted eighth note, and 16th, all indicating different lengths so that the musicians can produce a melody or a rhythm. And of course, the rhythm is very important to our dance, especially. Every note has the same length of rest available. We don't use those very often in Scottish dance music, so I'm not going to spend time there. Now, the key signature is slightly more important in that what Lisa just played, the sharp, natural, or flat, tunes that are in a minor key have one effect, tunes in a major key another. What does that mean, minor, major? It's using the same notes of the scale but starting at a different place, so the effect is very different. So an A major scale would sound right, where an A minor it changes where the half steps are in the scale, producing a very different effect. And you can hear minor has a tendency to be on the haunting or spooky side of things, where the major keys have a tendency to be far brighter. And when you're listening to tunes, if you like it, and that's really all that counts. If you're speaking with a musician, you'll want a minor tune possibly for some specific reason, but I think really the use of major and minor tunes is more up to the musicians for when they're putting together sets and trying to balance out a dance, and teachers generally don't have to worry about that. Thank goodness, eh? So the example that I've given here is a C major scale and an A major scale. We've basically done that with A major and A minor. So we've combined the talk about major and minor into one here. Lines that go vertical to the staff, there are different types. And it's just handy to know that a single line like the first one is just a bar line separating measures. So the line space between two of those is called a bar. And we know that we can do one skip changes step, two slip steps, one pas de basque, one strathspey traveling, or one strathspey setting step in one bar of music. The double bar line next indicates the end of a phrase, but you're going to continue playing. The next end double bar line is the end of the whole part or piece. And the next two show repeat signs that could occur at the beginning or end of a musical phrase, indicating that you play it a second time. And so as you open up books of music, like the RSCDS books that have music, or originally ours, you will see all of those things. You'll also see at the beginning, after that fancy G or treble clef sign, numbers that indicate how the time is to be distributed within a bar, how many pulses there are, or beats. And that's the top number. And if you look across that series of numbers, you have 2 in the first time signature, 6 in the next, 4 in the next, 3 in the next, and we'll talk about the other 2 in a moment. That's indicating the number of beats per bar. The bottom number is telling you what kind of note gets 1 beat. So the bottom numbers, 4, 8, 4, 4. 4 beats, 8 beats, 4 beats, 4 beats. So in 2/4 time, the first time signature, you have 2 pulses per bar, but each quarter note gets 1 beat, meaning we could have 4 quarter notes to equal, 2 quarter notes to equal 2 beats. 6/8 time, 6/8 notes to fill up a bar, and in 4/4, 4 quarter notes, 3/4, 3 quarter notes. Those have to balance out within the piece for us to maintain the rhythm and to maintain the beat. So when you go to a piece of music and it has a 6/8 in the front, you are going to know that in Scottish dance music, it is a jig. If there's a 3/4 in the beginning, it is a waltz, or what is the word I'm looking for? Step, step, close. Like Tweed Side and Yellow-Haired Laddie.
Pas de valse?
I was thinking of
Minuet.
Minuet. That's the word I'm looking for. Minuet style, but pas de valse. Minuet style step. And that's like in Tweed Side and Yellow-Haired Laddie, and we don't do those frequently. Right. Those last 2 time signatures became popular The C replacing 4/4 because it was the most common time signature. And so that's simply called common time. The one with a line through it is cut common time, cutting it in half. And so those two time signatures we see frequently in Scottish dance music. But note for the C, it could be a strathspey or it could be a reel. So that isn't giving you the answer there, where 6/8 definitely gives you the answer for jinx. We don't need to really understand chords, but a grouping of 3 notes that sound hopefully pleasant together or work towards it are called a chord, and there are 2 examples. Gary, could we have a C major chord, please? So 3 notes played at the same time produce a very pleasant effect. And of course, we're hearing those all through the piece of the music. And again, the dance teacher will most likely recognize that as a letter like A, B, or C, either over on top of the staff or underneath it. Then there's the all-important notes that start before the melody really gets rolling, or the pickup note, or anacrusis. And that's the kind of the after on your marks, get set kind of thing, get ready. Then you go on the first beat of the bar. And in skip change of step, that's important because we do a skip on pickup notes. Otherwise, they're just a let's get ready to go and we start dancing. And not all tunes have them. So sometimes musicians will fill them in as they're playing for your class so that you have that pickup note into the jig or whatever and feel a sense that you're not starting in midair. Da-da-dee-da-dum. You know when you're starting the Lee rig because there's those 2 notes right before. Now, I've gone through a whole bunch of stuff very quickly. Does someone have that section? And in that same document, there are the terms listed that we commonly use as musicians, as teachers. Bar is one of the most important ones, knowing what a bar of music is. Right. And remembering there's a difference between things like rhythm, tempo. Now, tempo is only the speed of the music. The rhythm is what's happening in the connection of notes within a bar to produce an effect, hopefully pleasing effect. Now let's get specific with Scottish country dance music. Least used are the 3/4s. And let me just bring this up to, whoops. Here we go. Could you play 8 bars of Yellow-Haired Laddie, please? So this isn't 3/4 time. This is a RSCDS dance, as you can see listed, just so we can hear the beats per bar. And I'll cue them in with a ready, 2, 3, play 2, 3, just so we're all together. Ready, 2, 3, play 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Right. And I had Tweed side up and I had them play Yellow-Haired Laddie. Would you play that again so they can actually see what having play? Thank you. Ready, 2, 3, play 2, 3. You can definitely do a ballroom style waltz to that, but it's not giving you the same impetus that a piece of waltz music really does. And I guess since we're at this spot, let's just back up to Waltz Country Dance, which happens to be 1 tune before that, where this one's definitely feels more like a waltz. And part of that is what happens with the left hand on the piano. Part of it's the construction of the tune. Ready, 2, 3, play 2, 3. And you could also do the minuet step to that, but it doesn't drive the same way as the other construction. And that's just a matter of how the notes are put together, but they're all in 3/4 time, meaning 3 pulses per bar. The quarter note gets 1 beat. Now, the tunes that we use most often in Scottish country dance, the jigs, strathspeys, and reels. There are many different types of each. It's not vital to understand them all, but it's helpful to understand that certain tunes help teach certain steps. And our first example of a tune, and right now we're going to talk about the style of tunes as opposed to the footwork. So single jigs are jigs that have a number of long notes, like here, long, short, long, short, long. So there are a lot of long notes in it, as opposed to being all filled with 3-note groupings like the second bar. We have the first 8 bars of number 4, Defula Reel, please. Ready, and. Right, and number 6, please. I need to bring it up first. Ready, and. And number 7, the Golden Pheasant. Ready, and. Right, so you have a real strong sense of long, short, long, short, long, short. And that is the natural characteristic of single jigs. Now, those signatures will occur in other types of jigs, for example, double jigs, where we're headed to right now. And we'll do some comparing to what that means. Let's see. There are more examples per type here than we are playing. Oops, 12, I passed it, didn't I? Yeah. All right, so Bonnie Dundee, or the tune for the Isle, number 12. Now you can notice right from the start, there are not as many quarter notes like this one right here in the second line standing out on its own. They're mostly 8th notes, and it has a very different effect. Ready, and. Right. So a lot fuller, busier, I don't know, just different. It has a very wonderful sound, and they have a tendency to build a little bit more excitement than a single jig does. But it's not always as easy to follow for someone who doesn't hear music easily. Number 14 might be a familiar tune. Mrs. Macpherson of Cluny used for the Wild Geese. Ready, and. So yes, there are some quarter notes at the beginning of bars 1 and 3, but most part the tune is filled with 8th notes, da 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 da, and that really pulls you forward nicely. The same with number 15, Kenmure's On and Awa. Ready, and. Right. Now we have just a little bit more about jigs, and then we're going to stop for questions if you have some burning. We're going on to Irish style jigs. And they are characterized often by repeated notes of the same pitch. There, 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 there. So you can see there are many examples right there in that first part. Rory O'More, number 17. Could we have 8 bars, please? Ready, and. Right, did you hear those duplicated notes? Hope so. In Johnny McGill, we have the same thing, the duplicated A's here, A's. Over and over, different notes repeated. Number 18, please. Ready, and. Yummy, I love that. And another example, the stool of repentance used for the last of the lairds. Ready, and. So you noticed it opened just like a single jig. Then it sounded like a double jig for a while. Now listen to what happens in the B part. We have 8 bars of the B part, please. Ready, and. Right, so a lot of duplicated notes. Is there a single bar? Well, up until the last 2 bars, it happens in every bar. So it's a lot of repeated notes. And that is, as I said, a characteristic of Irish jigs. This next type, extra note jigs. Is it really a category? Well, they exist out there. There are strathspeys, jigs, and reels that all use that effect. And the word rant comes to mind as something to kind of cover all of it. It's when you have something kind of trilled within the start of General Stuart's reel, or in this case, a jig, the machine without horses. We have the first 8 bars, please. Ready, and. Very nice tripping effect or tribbling effect. It's wonderful. And there are a whole bunch of tunes that do that. Here we have Captain Charles Stewart's jig, the tune from Mrs. Stewart's jig. Great example of the same. Ready, and. And also in number 22, I'll make you faint to follow me. Ready, and. All right, just about done with our jig section here. 2 steps became very popular during the time of around the time of World War I, and they're mostly a happy-go-lucky sound, and people were looking for joy and happiness, and that anyone could dance to it because basically you're walking, like step, 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 2, 3. And let's listen to the first 8. Actually, we'll take 16 bars because 2 steps are usually written in 16-bar phrases. So the first 16, please. Ready, and. Walk, 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 kick, walk, 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 kick. And this next example of the same will be quite familiar, I would think. Number 24, please, 16 bars. Ready, and. They're kind of relaxing sounding tunes. Then you look at which dance it's for and you go, oh my goodness, it's kind of an odd combination. White Heather jig and moving a mile a minute at the same time. Drops of brandy. Now we're in 9/8 time. Look at that time signature. 9 on top and an 8 on the bottom. Well, it's laborious in jig time to count to 6 for 6/8 or 9 for 9/8. So what happens in these 2 time signatures is we count the major pulses. So in jig time, we have 2 major pulses per bar. Yatata, yatata. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Similar in 9/8. Yatata, yatata, yatata is 1 bar. And this would be used for example, Strip the Willow. Not keeping up on my second page here. So let's hear the first 8 bars of number 25, please. Ready, and. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So we won't be doing very many skip changes, step or pas de basque to that music. The RCDS has published this wonderful second tune, and I'd like you to hear 8 bars of number 26, Frolicsome Patty. And I should have cued it in 3 instead of 2, sorry. 4, 5, 6. Right. Beautiful tunes. Fortunately, we don't have to deal with those a lot. Maybe I should say unfortunately, because I do love slip jigs, but because I teach step dancing as well, we get to make up for it on that side of things. Some single jigs, double jigs, Irish jigs are also songs. And sometimes it's important to know which ones are songs, because if you have expats, immigrants, new Scots in your community, there's nothing like a song from home. Not necessarily that these would do this in this generation, but it would have generations ago. So number 27 is an example of a song called Humber Jumber. Ready, and. So you can see that's also a single jig. It's not a single place you can categorize that. Number 28, the same. It is a double jig, and it also has extra notes in it. So it kind of falls into many categories, and it is a song. Number 28, ready, and. So in jig time, we had quite a few different types of things. We're going to just have a quick little review. We have single jigs. Long, short. Double jigs, mostly short, da-da-da-da-da-da. Irish jigs that repeat the same note, da-da-da, dee-da-da. Can't easily do that with my voice, but the repeated notes give that its identity. Then the extra note ones, kind of that rant effect. 2 steps, walk, and kick. Very relaxed feeling tunes. They're great for warm-ups. Slip jigs for drops of brandy, or sometimes you might want it for some other interesting exercise you come up with. A list of songs there that you can refer to. And the graded book uses songs for, I think, almost all of the dances. So it's a good source of, and it's the first graded book that has those. Nice deep breath, and we're going to head into Strathspey land.
There is one question in the chat now.
Okay.
And the question is from Colleen. Would musicians then stick to one particular type of jig for each dance?
Typically within one dance, you'd stick with this one type. Now, you can surely find a variety so it doesn't sound as though you're a broken record, partially by changing the key you're in, or where the long and short notes occur. So if you have a tune where it's always the first 2 notes of the tune, da, da, it goes on, it'd be rather boring if every tune started that way, even if it changed keys. So usually you stick with the same type within a set, and that's one of the reasons it's important for musicians to understand the differences in types of jigs, or reels, or strathspeys. Strathspeys. My, there are so many different types of strathspeys. Just even within the traditional range, the types of compositions, how they vary, is amazing. So the traditional is the biggest category that we dance to most of the time. And they are characterized by Scotch snaps. Some have a lot, some don't have many. And if you look at my example on page 13, or the one that I'm circling right now, the boxed items are all Scotch snaps, which means the first of the pair of notes is shorter than the one that follows. But they have to be paired, and that short note has to be on the beat. It doesn't count if the second one is short and this one is long, which in this case that is true. That is not a Scotch snap. So these, just 1, 2, 3 bars, I guess. Would you play the first 3 bars of number 36? That's exactly what's on display on page 13. Ready, and. That was a rude place to stop. As we get into the tunes, we'll have longer phrases, but I wanted you to see that Scotch snap, and it's not just short followed by long. It's a specific short 16th note followed by a dotted 8th note, and the 16th must be on the beat. That is what makes the snap, and that is particularly a Scottish effect. Now some tunes to demonstrate that. Since we just heard a bit of Sir George Clarke of Penicuik, let's go ahead and hear the first 8 bars. It is filled with them, and it is a driving tune. Ready, and. Isn't that a delicious piece of music? Just love it. Right, number 38, Miss Milligan, which is the signature tune for the Strathspey portion of Glasgow Country Dance. Ready, and. And what I'd like you to note about this tune is, do you see where my cursor is circling 4 notes? So we have 2 notes paired, no Scotch snap. Then this is part of the second beat of the bar, and it is short as well. This beam in the middle makes both of those notes 16th notes, or 2 flags. So we have that short long, ta 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 ta, and then another snap right away, ta ta. Let's have another example. One of my absolute favorites is the Braes of Tullymet. Number 41, please. Ready, and. This tune provides such wonderful contrast between Scotch snap and the reverse of that. Right in the first 2 bars, you have 2 Scotch snaps in the first bar and then none in the second bar. Could you just play those first 2 bars again, please, with the pickup? Ready, and. Just exciting stuff. Anyway, so you can start recognizing long and short. So no Scotch snaps, then here we have a Scotch snap, here we have a Scotch snap, then no more in that line. Right. There are some Strathspeys that do not have many Scotch snaps, and you'll find some older tunes that very clearly have some long short, short long, but also even 8th notes. Ta 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 ta. So 3 different types of things that can happen with those 8th notes all together. We don't see as much of that in more modern tunes. Highland Scttishes are Strathspeys that have 4 strong pulses per bar. So now referring back to what we just listened to, we have a strong, weak, medium, weak, strong, weak, medium. Now we have strong, 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 as in number, let's go to 43, the keel row. Ready, and. So a tune like that is perfect for Highland Scttish setting, or dances with it, or if you're just going to do a Highland Scttish on its own, or to play along with tunes like the Hawes of Cromdale for that dance, which is a Highland Scttish style dance. Number 45 is a pretty popular tune that's also Highland Scottish. And before we listen to this next one, notice what's happening with the piano. There's a strong, weak, strong for the most part, as opposed to strong, weak, medium, weak. So Loudon, Bonnie, Woods, and Brays, ready, and... Right now, sitting in your chairs is fine. I'd like you to, as they play the same 8 bars, during the first 4 bars, imagine hopping, doing Highland Scottish. Hop, back, hop, front, reach, close, reach, hop. And then for the next 4 bars, Strathspey traveling of drive, close, drive through, getting a strong surge. 8 bars, please. Ready, and hop, back, hop, front, step, close, step, lift, hop, back, hop, front, reach, close, reach, surge, close, surge, surge, close, surge, surge, close, surge, surge, close, surge. It clearly identifies with the hopping more than the surge. And the 2 quarter notes that start the part kind of help that happen. Bottom. It doesn't tell you to hold the first one like da. Now, not all tunes are written with a long first note to give you that in a Strathspey, but you have a sense of what's going on right there. In the category modernly known as Strathspey these days, we include airs. Beautiful tunes. We have the Music of Spey, number 47 for Miss Gibson's. Ready, and... And it's interesting, in the second bar of this tune, there's a Scotch snap, but it just doesn't have the same power as it does in a tune that has more dotted and cut notes, or long and short notes. Also in that style, number 48 from Autumn and Appin, The Hills of Lorne. Ready, and... And songs are typically airs. Let's have number 52. Ready, and... I wish you were all sitting in my living room here, because the sound live is incredible, and I know that electronically reproduced sound isn't as wonderful, but I'm having the time of my life sitting here. Number 53 from my Shuntress Willican, My Dearie. Ready, and... And so the only Strathspeys that you'd want to mix in one set would be one type, traditional within that, airs and songs within theirs. Now, there are always exceptions to all of this. Dainty Davy is a good example of a tune it is a song. It's a Strathspey with lots of notes. It has traditional characteristics, in fact, many of them, but it's still a song. So, a quick review of our Strathspey types. Traditional. So we have Scotch snaps as one of the main characteristics there. And you really, when well presented, these tunes provide a very strong sense of strong, weak, medium, weak. So you have the strong to push out on the Strathspey, weaker to close and third, and then another not quite as strong, but getting that next reach, and then the draw through, which is almost a quiet, silent thing happening when it's well done. So music supports different things. Then you change to Highland Scottishes, and that would make for pretty bouncy steps because you have 4 strong beats per bar as opposed to the strong, weak, medium, weak. Airs and songs have a tendency to all be medium, 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 medium. There's not that kind of push. So it has a relaxing effect, if you will. So there we are at the end of the Strathspey section. Do we have any questions there, Yvonne?
We have a question from Ellie.
Okay.
When and how did songs and airs start being used for Scottish country dancing?
The first one the RSCDS published was the Lee Rig. And that's the first I know of, because from historical documents, airs were not used for Scottish country dance at all. And that's the only source I have, so I haven't pursued that, Ellie. So great question, but I would say Lee Rig for the RSCDS is most likely where it started. And there was a lot of frustration, and then they had the temerity to publish more of the same type. And when Miss Gibson was published, there was a real uproar because Miss Gibson's Strathspey, that air is a slow, emotional piece. Let's just see if I told them I wasn't going to backtrack, but I think it's worth having a clear sense of. It's number 47. The Music of Spey. And about da dee da dum. Ready and. And that is how that tune was intended. And so now we see almost any air out there has a country dance written to it. So, Ellie, that's all I can tell you on that subject. Reels. Just like to read a quote that I have here. Traditional reels are crisp and burly. That's how J. Scott Skinner described them. He was a Strathspey king, and I like that description. And with crisp and burly in mind, we'll hear our first traditional style reel, Sleepy Maggie, number 54. Ready, and. How can you sit in a chair with that music playing? Just love that. And again, we have a category just similar to Strathspey traditionals, that there are so many different types within it. Another very popular and common, I hate using the word common, well known, that's a better choice of words, is number 57, The Wind That Shakes the Barley, great old tune. Ready, and. Yeah, Lisa doesn't want to stop either. Good. So there are just 2 examples, and you can see in the list, the Fairy Dance, Rachel Ray, Deal Among the Tailors, Lady Erskine. There are reels with many notes in them. Right below that, I have something called examples of running reels. Some people call them running reels. They are notes or tunes that just plow ahead a mile a minute. And number 60 is a great example of that, Cadgers in the Canongate. The tune for Cadgers in the Canongate. Let me just bring that music up here. Whoops. John McNeil, where are you? There you are. Ready, and. It just moves you, moves you. And to me, it's very similar to what Sleepy Maggie does, but it has a slightly different drive. And the same is true of number 61, The Highlandman Kissed His Mother. Ready, and. So lots of notes to reels that don't have lots of notes. Quarter note reels, some will call them. The names are less important than understanding that if you look at number 63, Maxwell's Rant, wow, there aren't very many notes there, are there? And the ear will notice the same thing, number 63. Ready, and. Right, and another example of that would be used for Longfield Reel, the Dawn Express, number 64. Ready, and. So, excuse me, we've gone from quite extreme there from the traditional reels to these quarter note reels. They are traditional in nature. I mean, they're traditional tunes, but they don't fall into the country dance traditional type of reel for dance. Rants. We're back to those extra notes that we had in jig and in strathspey. And the Stewart's rant that we use for General Stewart's reel is a great example of that, number 65. Ready, and. And just like in strathspeys and jigs, they really, that trill effect propels you forward in this most positive way. Number 66, the same thing in Captain McBain's reel. Ready, and. Yeah, that tune has guts to it. So those are the extra notes or rants. Now, I've put the examples of rant type of strathspey right after this so you can compare. The strathspey number 67, Keep the Country, Bonnie Lassie. Ready, and. Would you continue and play the second part, please? My bad. That wasn't on my list of tunes. I apologize. But the next one was on the list. So Donald Bain, number 68. I'm so sorry. Ready, and. Right. That's Donald Bain, and one we dance to very frequently. For Fair Donald, Lady Dick Lauder's strathspey. Ready, and. Right, that might be the best example of all of those of showing that rant effect. Now, other types of reels. One that's very popular, hornpipes. They have kind of an interesting history in that they started as a 3/2 type music, 3/2 time signature. And we see that time signature still used a lot in English music and dance, and in a few places in Scottish, excuse me, but not frequent. And the music was for the sailors to do their work on board ship, whether it be exercising or just music to work to, but usually it was to accompany exercise. And then over time it changed its way to a 4/4 type tune, but still with a very nautical feel and a repeated yum pum pum effect. Now this is true of two different types here. The hornpipe is one of them. So Robertson's hornpipe, number 71, we know from West's hornpipe. Ready, and. It has a nautical feel. For those of us who grew up with Popeye the Sailor, you can almost hear that as background music. It was Pugwash in Captain Pugwash in Britain. Anyway, the feel of yum pum pum and that up and down the scale feeling, almost like waves. And to follow up that with the Davy hornpipe, which we use for the sailor. Ready, and. You could imagine shuffling and folding your arms and capering away to that music, which will feel very different than number 76, which is a Scotch measure, which has a lot of similar, 76, yes, a lot of similar characteristics in terms of the yum pum pums, but no nautical feel. Just the first 8 bars of 76, please. Ready, and. Right. Love that tune. Number 78, the East Nuka Fife. Ready, and. So you hear that yum pum pum comes up over and over again, but to me, it doesn't take you to the sea. And I hope for you the same is true. One feels very nautical and the other one not, both having the yum pum pum signature. Number 81, Miss Catherine Maxwell, ranks up there as one of the all-time favorites. Ready, and. Yes, and you can see in the list here from number 76 to 84, there are a number of tunes that you dance to frequently. The Flowers of Edinburgh, maybe the Gates' Duke of Perth, which we now dance in halftime. The music was written to be played twice that speed, but we don't. And then the Triumph is also a Scotch measure. All that yum pa pa stuff. One of the newest additions to our dance repertoire tune type is the polka. And the one that most of us grew up doing first was J.B. Milne, number 86. Let's see, just let me bring that up here. Thank you. Ready, and. Step, 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 up, step, 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 da, da, ba. Again, notice it's a 16-bar phrase, not dissimilar for what happened in the jigs, in the 2 steps. Shift and Bobbins is another very popular dance that uses a polka-style tune. And if you wanted to do 16 again, that's great. Ready, and. Right. The The RSCDS has published one, Tiddlywinks Polka, but I think that the two that you've just heard are far more common. And so tunes like that sprinkled into a program here and there just change the texture of an evening. So having one of those is great to break away from having all the reels being one type and all the strathspeys another, etc. We have songs again in the real-time category. And the first one, My Love, She's But a Lassie Yet. Beautiful tune, and it's such a versatile and useful tune to have in your head. Ready, and. Or number 90, The White Cockade. Ready, and. Now note, the White Cockade has quite a few yum-pom-poms in it. So is it a hornpipe or is it a Scotch measure? Does it feel nautical? No. At least I don't think so. It's a Scotch measure. As well as a song, of course. 92. Duncan Gray is another example of a song, and quarter note reel. Ready, and. And I'm sure some of you are thinking, oh, Ron didn't just pick RSCDS tunes. That's correct. I went to other tunes that most of us are familiar with. So here from Mari's Wedding is the Lewis Bridal Song, also a song. Ready, and. Right. Quite soon we'll be talking about why those differences will really help us. We have some questions.
Thank you. The first one is from Anna. She says, I teach a lot of beginners and reels always feel very fast for them, even though the recorded music proves that they take the same number of minutes for a 32-bar dance as a jig. So why do they feel fast?
We'll be getting there as we deal with step practice tunes, which is going to be right after this section, and it's an excellent question. I love it. Any other questions?
Yes, there's another question from David Booz. My understanding is that hornpipes are always in major keys. Is this correct?
No. No, they're in both major and minor keys.
All right.
The musical cue. This diagram on page 22 might be too confusing for words, but in a nutshell, it takes 2 bars of time to cue in jig and reel time, because we need 4 counts. You think, why 4? It's just ready and. Well, we're using ready and to indicate, if it's to the musicians, the tempo and when they're going to start. But if you think about the 4 beats in those 2 bars, we have bar 1 has 2 beats, the next has 2 beats. We could count them as 5, 6, 7, 8, which I use to cue in when I have multiple musicians most of the time. We pre-agreed today to use ready and because it'd be more time efficient. But if we think of 5, 6, 7, 8, the 5 is the ready, the 7 is the and. So you have pauses between the 2 and a pause before it starts. 5, 6, 7, on 8 comes the lead in da yappa ta ta. So for example, if we're playing number 96, and we'll just the first few bars, but note that Lisa's going to play that pickup note, that one that's on its own in the front, as I say 8. 5, 6, 7, 8. But if I do ready and, it's this way. Ready and. The one thing that's cool about the musical cue in is that you can use basically the same speed for all three, jig, reel, and strathspey. I mean, very, very close, so you don't have to panic. But so, for example, if you're dancing, walking a strathspey setting step to the right, step, close, step, lift, and you go 5, 6, 7, 8, or ready, and you have the tempo that's appropriate. For pas de basque, I suggest doing the same thing in place. Just pas de basque, that feels right, speed, ready, and so you're doing the ready on the first beat of the first pas de basque, and then the and on the first beat, or the third beat of the pas de basque. If you use 5, 6, 7, 8, you'll get the lead-in note on 8, as we just used an example of the Reel of May. So I have taught places where the musicians don't mind, but the examiners do. We'll move on from that subject. The musical cue, we used a jig as an example, and we'll now use, 105. Sorry, I'm skipping ahead here. To 105, briefly. So Maxwell's Rant, we're going to do 5, 6, 7, 8 first, and notice the lead-in notes start on 8. 5, 6, 7, 8. Thank you very much, that's fine. And now with a ready and. So that they'll come after the and. Ready, and. So they both produce the same result if they're done the same way. Musical cueing requires practice, and doing it as you do your steps on your own, I think, is the best way to get there. If you don't have to worry about the cueing that way, you should practice it with your recordings so you can anticipate when you say it. So you're not starting 3 bars early like, okay, get ready. Yep, it's coming up pretty soon. Okay, are you ready? Okay, now. That doesn't work very well. So you want to have a very prepared method of getting people started. And now big jump ahead, sorry, to 125. And just the musical cue and strathspey time to show that you only need 1 bar because there are 4 beats in a bar in strathspey time. We already have our 5, 6, 7, 8 in 1 bar's time. So could we have just the first couple of bars, please? 5, 6, 7, 8. Same thing, please. Ready, and. So you can see they work equally well. I've not heard dancers prefer one over the other. So I think, yes, when I've taught at like summer school at St. Andrews, the musicians I've worked with have been very happy to have 5, 6, 7, 8. So
it says, it's from Blaine. Do your musicians have a preferred cueing in style?
That varies musician to musician. 5, 6, 7, 8 is the most secure. They absolutely know what tempo you're asking for. And when they're multiple, it's easier to come in exactly at the same time. If you are great at ready and, I think most musicians are happy with that as long as they've been prepared for it. That's the big thing. When Lisa started playing for our Scottish Country Dance class, she's going, what the heck is he talking about? You know, it took just a conversation and then it was all sorted out. But it doesn't matter which. Are musicians here? Do you have a preference?
Like you say, 5, 6, 7, 8 is 100% clear. Always.
Yeah. 5, 6, 7, 8 is also universal. It's used around the world in music and dance. The RCDS is the only place I know of personally that sticks with ready and. And that might be because they used one musician only for so many years, for so many classes. And when there are multiple musicians playing, it was for an evening dance, and they didn't need to cue in. So that's an interesting place to go, but that's all I can say about that at the moment. And now we're going to head into the world of step practice tunes and why certain tunes are very helpful to have in your arsenal. Now, there's no strict rule about anything we're talking about here. It's just that there are some tunes that make it easier to dance certain steps or to teach to beginners in particular. When it comes to experienced dancers, it doesn't matter what kind of tune you pick, which type of jig, because we can do all the steps to all the types. But it's picking tunes that will help you teach or help people get things on beat. So, for example, number 95 for the slip step. Or I've also said, for more advanced dancers, jig time pas de basque. So as they play 8 bars, think slip steps for the first 4 bars and then pas de basque for the next 4 bars. Ready, and step, go 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 step, spring, beat, beat, spring, beat, beat, spring, beat, beat, spring, beat, beat. Great tune for either one of those steps. Now, why is it greater than others? It just might be my taste in music. There's a lot of single jigs, so that makes it more obvious for slip step. In terms of a good one for advanced, I think that a single jig is good for that as well, because in jig time, we spring onto our working foot and we have a longer wait to bring our next foot down. So it's longer. Da-ya, da-da, da-ya, da-da. We hold that one out longer, and the tune helps you get it there. Okay, on to example number 100 for skip changes step. Right? Ready, and. I believe it was Muriel Johnston who commented to me that she likes to use this tune for a class doing 2 pas de basque followed by 2 skip changes step. So think about that now as they play those 8 bars again. Ready, and. Right. Now, example 105. If you're trying to smoothen out your skip change of step, a tune like Maxwell's Rant can help smoothen a skip change. So just imagine the skip change this time as we listen to 8 bars. Ready, and. Up, step, close, step, up, step, close, step, up, step, close, step. There's not a big emphasis on the skip. So it has a more forward feeling to it or movement. Now to accent the skip, we can look at 108. It has the fancy title of Hornpipe. Ready, and. Every time you lead into a new bar, there are notes that kind of, perk you right up into it. Da-da-ba-da. Move you right off the ground. Continuing with pas de basque and purposes. My Love, She's But a Lassie Yet, which you heard earlier, 109. We'll hear 8 bars of that, and just imagine your pas de basque to that. Ready, and. Spring beat, beat, spring beat, beat, spring beat, beat, spring beat, beat. And growing up in the Highland dance world, this wonderful tune that I'd never thought about using for step practice in country dance, but I believe as Jeffrey Selling pointed out, he loves using this one, and I agree completely. So this is a step dance tune. 5, 6, 7, 8. Up, 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 down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down. It has the down, up, down in it, and a very clear, strong beats in the music. Now we're going to go to 113. This is to emphasize the spring in the pas de basque, that first beat. Ready, and spring, 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 spring. Now compare that to number 114, which emphasizes the jeté a bit more. Ready, and. Out. And that's because, for the most part, there are longer notes for that. And in this particular tune, they're going up, or ascending notes, a higher pitch, and it almost pulls the foot right out to emphasize that one. In jig time, something similar happens with tune 116, the Athol Highlanders for the Duke of Athol's Reel. Think pas de basque. Ready, and. So that emphasizes the first beat, where in jig time as well, this number 117 emphasizes the jeté. Ready, and. Right. I think that's the last thing I really wanted to cover in that little bit. Notice I have quite a few tunes listed, but the ones that really help with specific steps I've pointed out. And you'll find many other tunes that do the same thing. Take a nice deep breath. I admit I'm moving a little bit faster right now because I see we're nearing our planned exit time for this, but we'll want to not miss out on anything. Going to 132. Oops, I skipped over. Sorry, back up 124. There we go. For Scpttish traveling, you want to get people to surge forward and really sink into it. The Marquis of Huntley's Farewell is one of the best tunes ever for that. 8 bars, please. Ready, and. And I think a combination of things really make that work. One is the long note at the beginning, and that from that lower note, it then ascends, it goes up. And that's what happens in the Scpttish traveling step. It's down and then up, and the music really takes you there. Number 126, to help lengthen the second stride. Ready? Do you have 126 ready? Sorry. Ready, and. Or 130. To emphasize the second stride. Ready, and. Right. And the recordings you have might give a different emphasis. So you need to know your recordings well to find out which tunes tell you that. Because if they speak to you in a certain way, it's easier to teach to that. Moving on to number 135. In Scpttish setting, a tune that gives you a sense of going from side to side, back and forth. Ready, and. 138. Ready, and. And note that in 137, whoops, did I skip over that? Oh, I did. Yes. The end of the bar often has a quarter note, which is uncluttered to help with beat 4. Do we have tune 137? First 8 bars, please. Ready, and. This tune is particularly helpful if the dancers want to draw through and put the foot down early. This helps hold back from that. You wait until the next bar starts. Highland Scottishes, we talked about in that section. They have 4 strong pulses per bar. 139, we'll just have this example, 139. Baroque and long. Ready, and. Boom, 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 boom. Or I mentioned the Hawes of Cromdale earlier, number 144, which is a fun little country dance. Ready, and. Beautiful tune. Right. Now we're going to just check in about the difference. In 145, we have the same melody, 8 bars as a reel, and then the same. What did I do here? Oh, I know. The 145 is the tune as a reel. So I'm going to ask Gary and Lisa to play 16 bars. So skip the repeats, play the top tune 45, then go right into the bottom half. The same melody in jig time. Thank you. Ready, and. Wow. And they're both used in country dances. The jig time as a signature tune, and in reel time is often used as just an accompanying tune. Now 146 has the same melody. The A part is a reel and the B part is a jig from the White Cockade. So we start in reel time. Ready, and. Da, 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 da. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, da, 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 1, da, da, da. So what you want to note there is that there are a different number of beats per bar, or pulses, and we have a 4 strong beats with 2 major pulses, 2 major in jig time and 4 in reel time. So da 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 dee, then we change da 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 da. Very different feel. We're going from working in 2s and 4s to working in 3s. Kind of like changing from a reel to a waltz. Significantly different. Okay, there's a hand up, and this is maybe a good place to deal with that. Barbara?
Hi. just somewhere in there, you might already going to be mentioning this, but for playing for class, I avoid those tunes that don't end, if you know what I mean.
I do.
Maybe
I'm presenting
playing
this for teachers, not musicians.
Okay, all right.
But you're absolutely right.
Ron, would this be a good time
And
to come back
yes,
to Anna's question?
yep.
Great.
So one I have here is about the reels sound faster than jigs, even though you've checked that they're the same speed. The number of notes per bar changes. And in a reel that uses available, you can have 8 little notes in a bar. Da 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 da. In jig time, you can only have 6. Yada da yada da. Jig by nature with 2 pulses per bar feels more relaxed. So fewer notes and by nature feels more relaxed. Reels have a tendency to be more intense. But if you compare Maxwell's rant, what I called a quarter note reel, to a jig, you might feel differently about that comparison. But if you pick a notey reel, yes, it's trouble. Now note, it's, in my opinion, better to pick not notey reels to teach beginners. Now, there are beginners who will catch on to every note that's played, but there are those who can't even hear a beat. And you really want to start with beginners closer to the bottom end of that and then see what you have and move upwards from there.
I have a question from Cheryl. It says, I am a candidate and my mentor has told me that during my real-time step practice, I am using jig time coaching. Any suggestions?
Would you repeat, please?
She has been told that when she is coaching real-time steps, her words are in jig time.
Oh, man, I would find that difficult to do. Wow, what would I do? Get an app for your iPhone that's a metronome and start making sure that you're only speaking when there's a click in the right time signature. Play music, or if you can work with a musician, that would be the very best, and see them moving their foot so you can start following that. Now, if it's in pas de basque, you just know that the 3 beats have to be even. Yat da da. In jig time, yat da da. And the same basic concept for slip and skip change. It's the evenness that makes it real. Spring beat beat, spring beat beat. Yes, there's a pause, but it's still between those 3 beats is a very even amount of time. In jig time, da ta ta, ya ta ta, distinctly different, and you should be following the music exactly. Robert, you have a hand up.
Yeah, I had an experience when I was mentoring one time for candidates, and examiners came over and insisted that it was not 3 even beats, even in real time, and they were using the words step, mark, time. And I'm just trying to address Cheryl's question that perhaps if she's saying step, mark, time, that ends up being in jig time.
Yes.
And so if you count it like you just said, Ron, or just 1, 2, 3, and avoid those words, it might be easier to make sure you're doing real time.
Yeah. That's interesting. We still have old school, well, maybe no longer actually, as I think about it, that there was a tradition that no matter what, even at your full certificate or unit 5, if you were doing skip change of step and you were teaching a reel, you had to do it in jig time. Now, that's not necessarily the case. You can use the music that you're trying to teach people to dance to. That's now being highly supported, that you're actually teaching what you're up to. And since the assignments for the units 2 for unit 3, they are given the right type of music for the step that they're to teach, it's no longer a problem. Okay. Yvonne, were there any other questions?
No questions except for the one that's for the end.
Okay, I think this is that. Or
Okay.
actually, before that, I'm going to turn the camera again and let you all have a look at our wonderful musicians again. And I'll change my screen, just a minute. Thank you, Gary and Lisa, so much. They've been sitting there so generously, listening to me babble on. Well, thank you all very much for being here. And if you have ideas for future things that I might add to this that would make it even more useful, please just email.
You've got the last question.
Oh, yes?
Yes, the last question. It says, this question is for the end of the presentation. What advice would you give to dance devisers as to how to pick a tune or type of tune to go with a newly written dance?
Talk to a musician of experience.
Okay, there's there's additional part. It says,
Oh, sorry.
I know how to read music and have tried devising a few dances. The most recent one I think is pretty good, but it's hard to pick a tune that I think really makes it pop. And this question is from Alicia.
Again, I'd suggest just talking to an experienced musician. Say what you're looking for. Because the dance was written before the music, it's a very different beast. I write a dance to music. It's the music that inspires the movements almost all the time. There have been an exception or two in my life, I suppose. But yeah, talk to an experienced musician. And if you can't find one to talk to, in person, we've got Zoom, we've got telephones. There are ways of coping with it. If you're looking for recommendations, speak to Robert or Barbara. They're a ton of experience in that line. Gary Thomas would be happy to help you. I would be happy to help you. I'm sure that Kathy Fraser Collins would love to help you as well. Anytime I think of a musician in North America, I think they'd be right there to help. Okay, so have a wonderful rest of the day and look forward to seeing you on the dance floor. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you.
Ron.
Thanks, Ron.
You're welcome. I love it.